When a woman stops explaining, stops chasing, and starts focusing inward, the entire universe starts to respond differently. Silence isn't weakness, it's strategy. Watch what happens when you stop talking and start transforming. There's a divine power in a woman who chooses herself, not out of spite, not to prove anything, but because she finally realizes her peace is priceless. In a world that wants you loud, reactive, and emotionally drained, silence and self-focus are rebellion. Today, let's talk about what truly happens when you stop chasing validation and start pouring into you. Number one, energy shifts instantly. There is an immediate shift that occurs the moment a woman decides to redirect her energy inward. Not tomorrow, not when she gets tired, but the very moment she makes a sacred decision to stop pouring into people, places, and patterns that do not pour back. That decision alone changes her frequency. People can feel it even without a word being said. Energy is not silent. It speaks before you do. It enters the room before your voice, your outfit, or your smile. So when you stop giving your energy away in conversations that drain you, in situations that don't serve you, in roles that exhaust you, your presence begins to carry a different weight. People who once relied on your constant availability begin to feel the absence of your overextension. Those who thrived on your reaction start to notice your silence. Those who benefited from your emotional labor, your checking in, fixing, nurturing, and explaining, begin to feel the boundary you never had to speak out loud. That shift, it makes them pause, it makes them wonder. Some might even say, she's acting different. Oh, you're not acting, you're aligning. You've just stopped leaking your energy. You've stopped handing out access that was never earned. You've stopped apologizing for needing space, peace, solitude, or standards. And suddenly, you're no longer on the same frequency as the chaos you used to tolerate. What happens next is powerful. The people around you, especially the ones who took your energy for granted, begin to reevaluate their behavior. Not because you told them to, not because you begged, pleaded, or gave another long explanation, but because your absence spoke louder than your presence ever did. Your new boundaries confuse those who benefited from your lack of them. Your calm unsettles those who relied on your emotional reactions. Your self-focus threatens those who were comfortable with you staying small, distracted, or emotionally entangled. But let them wonder, let them adjust, or let them exit. You are no longer holding yourself hostage in a version of you that puts others' comfort above your own healing. When you pull your energy inward, you stop feeding dysfunction. You stop giving your power away. And you begin to glow in a different kind of way. The kind that doesn't need to prove anything. That's the beauty of feminine restraint. It's not about being cold, it's about being clear. The energy shift is instant. But the transformation it creates, that's long-lasting, that's sacred, and that's exactly how everything begins to fall into place. Number two, you attract, not chase. One of the most powerful shifts that happens when a woman chooses herself is this. She stops chasing and starts attracting. You see, chasing energy is rooted in desperation, in over-explaining, in trying to prove your worth to people who aren't even qualified to hold space for you. It's running after validation, attention, approval, all while abandoning your own center. But when you go quiet, when you stop begging to be seen, stop forcing your presence, and stop explaining your value, that desperation dissolves. And in its place You begin to radiate. That's the secret no one tells you. Silence is not empty. It's magnetic. When you're not constantly reacting or reaching, your energy settles. It becomes grounded. And grounded women don't chase. They attract. They attract peace. They attract clarity. They attract the kind of love and opportunities that don't need to be begged for. Because what you attract is a reflection of who you are when no one is watching. When your soul is quiet, when your boundaries are firm, and when your self-worth is intact, the world starts to respond differently. People respect what doesn't beg. They're drawn to what feels solid, self-sourced, and unattached. This doesn't mean you become closed off or emotionless. It means your energy is no longer scattered. You're not available to anything that doesn't match the peace you're building inside. And that is power. When you stop chasing, something beautiful happens. You begin to notice what's chasing you. Peace starts chasing you. Aligned connections come knocking without force. Opportunities you used to overextend for now find you. Why? Because your focus is no longer outward. You're not performing for anyone's approval. You're simply being, and that being is becoming magnetic. Your radiance doesn't come from what you wear, post, or say. It comes from the way you carry yourself when no one is clapping, from the way you respect yourself enough to not chase things that threaten your peace. And yes, people will notice. The ones who are used to your overgiving may feel your stillness as rejection. But it's not rejection, it's realignment. You're not cutting people off. You're cutting off the pattern of abandoning yourself. So let the silence do the talking. Let your energy speak first. Let your radiance lead the way. Because when you stop chasing what isn't for you, what is for you starts chasing you. Number 3, people show you who they really are. There's something almost magical and also a little heartbreaking that happens when a woman goes quiet. Not the kind of silence rooted in fear or suppression, but the kind that comes from emotional clarity, self-respect, and peace. When you stop explaining yourself, when you stop reacting to every slight, every comment, every push of a boundary, and you stop trying to fix, correct, or prove your intentions to people who already made up their mind, something powerful happens. People show you exactly who they are. Your silence becomes a mirror that reflects back the truth, stripped of your explanations and emotional buffering. And here's what that mirror reveals. Some people were only comfortable with the version of you who overgave, overshared, and overextended. Some people were only loving when they could control how you responded. And some people only stayed because you were carrying the emotional weight of the relationship, doing all the work to keep it together. But when you stop performing, when you stop emotionally babysitting adults, stop translating your soul just to be understood, watch who panics. Watch who becomes distant. Watch who accuses you of changing when you finally honor your peace. Watch who begins to guilt trip, provoke, or manipulate just to get a reaction out of you. Because the truth is, silence is deeply uncomfortable for those who relied on your noise to avoid their own reflection. Letting people show you who they are doesn't mean you're being passive. It means you're being present. It means you're no longer interrupting the process of truth with your over-involvement. And the truth is, some relationships cannot survive the silence. Not because you're being cold or distant, but because the connection was never truly mutual. It was performance-based, control-based, or built on you giving too much while receiving too little. But this silence, this sacred pause, it's not about punishment, it's about revelation. When you stop filling in the gaps, people fill them in themselves. You get to see who calls, who cares, who disappears, who respects your space versus who tries to violate it. You get to witness character, not words, patterns, not promises. It's a sobering process, but it's also one of the most freeing. Because once you see people clearly, without the noise, without the fog, you can choose clarity over fantasy, reality over potential, peace over performance. Let silence do its job. Let people reveal themselves. And then believe what they show you, even if it's not what you wanted to see. Because that truth, it's your liberation. Number 4, your intuition gets louder. There's a moment deep in your stillness when something within you starts to rise. It's quiet, but it's powerful. It's subtle, but it's certain. It's your intuition, and it's always been there, patiently waiting for you to lower the volume of the world so it can finally speak. When you stop explaining yourself to people who don't want to understand, when you stop overthinking every decision based on how it will be received, when you stop letting other people's voices drown out your own inner knowing, you begin to hear yourself again. Your intuition doesn't scream, it doesn't force. It whispers, but in the chaos of comparison, pressure, people-pleasing, and performance, that whisper gets lost. You start mistaking fear for discernment. You second-guess your gut. You outsource your clarity to people who have no idea what your soul came here to do. But the moment you choose silence, the moment you begin focusing inward instead of outward, your inner voice starts to grow stronger, sharper, and more grounded. Because your intuition never left you. You just couldn't hear it over the noise. This is why silence is not just peaceful, it's sacred. It clears the static. It cuts through the performance. It creates a clean space for your inner wisdom to come forward without distortion. And here's the beautiful truth. The more you trust your intuition, the more it starts to guide you in real time. Not in hindsight, not after heartbreak, not after chaos, but before the misstep, before the misalignment, before the betrayal. That feeling in your gut that tightens when something isn't right, that's not anxiety. That's your spirit protecting you. That sense of peace that flows through you when you're on the right path, that's not coincidence, that's confirmation. And as you stop relying on external validation, you stop asking for advice about things your soul already answered. And as you stop wrapping your solar in, you stop needing someone else to co-sign your decision. You begin to trust yourself deeply, unapologetically, and without hesitation. This doesn't mean you never doubt again. It means your doubts don't dominate your decisions anymore, because you've learned to pause, to listen, to honor your inner voice before reacting to outer noise. So if you're in a season of quiet right now, embrace it. If you're feeling pulled away from distractions and into solitude, honor it. It's not isolation, it's initiation. You're learning to listen to the most powerful guide you'll ever have, yourself. Because when a woman listens to her intuition, truly listens, she becomes unstoppable. Number 5, you take back emotional power. Silence is often misunderstood. Some see it as passive, weak, a sign that you've given up or have nothing left to say. But when a woman chooses silence intentionally, not because she's afraid, but because she's done wasting energy, that silence becomes a form of emotional power. You begin to realize every time you over-explain your feelings to someone unwilling to hear you, every time you get caught in a loop defending your worth to someone who's already decided not to value you, every time you argue just to be right in a space that doesn't even honor truth, you are leaking energy. You are bleeding your peace into people and situations that do not know what to do with it. And for what? To feel temporarily seen, to hold on to a version of yourself that's addicted to proving something. That kind of emotional expenditure isn't power. It's exhaustion in disguise. But something powerful shifts when you stop, when you take a breath, step back and choose not to react. When you stop running after clarity from others and start offering it to yourself. That's when your emotional power returns to you. You realize you don't need the last word. You don't need them to understand your heart before you decide to protect it. You don't need to keep picking up emotional burdens that were never yours to carry. Instead, you start redirecting that same energy, the energy you once used to chase closure, control outcomes, or calm chaos, and pour it into you. You use it to build your routines, to nourish your body, to pursue your purpose, to reconnect with your joy, your creativity, your voice, not the reactive one, but the authentic one that only speaks when it's time to move with power. This is the moment you stop being emotionally accessible to everything, because you now understand not every argument is worth your peace. Not every conflict requires your commentary. Not every trigger deserves a performance. This is not avoidance, it's mastery. Emotional power doesn't come from being loud, it comes from being anchored. From knowing who you are so deeply that someone else's opinion can no longer rock your foundation. From loving yourself so fiercely that you don't have to convince anyone else to. And guess what? That stillness, that grounded, quiet presence speaks louder than any words ever could. Because when a woman reclaims her emotional power, she becomes a force, not because she's shouting, but because she finally realizes her energy is currency and she's done spending it where it doesn't multiply. Number 6, your standards automatically rise. When you begin to focus on your healing, your growth, and your inner peace, something powerful happens. Without force, without effort, and without you even realizing it at first. Your standards rise automatically. It's not about becoming arrogant or suddenly too good for people or situations. It's about becoming too aware to keep lying to yourself. What you once tolerated starts to feel deeply misaligned. What once excited you now feels small. What you used to explain away with "it's not that bad" or "maybe I'm asking for too much" now sounds like self-betrayal. This is what happens when your soul upgrades, when you're no longer looking for love, attention, or belonging in places that require you to shrink in exchange. Healing changes your taste. Growth shifts your perspective. And peace recalibrates your nervous system so deeply that chaos starts to repel you. And that recalibrates your nervous system The drama you used to think was passion, now it feels exhausting. The inconsistent friend or lover you kept making excuses for, now you feel drained just thinking about entertaining their access. The environments where you had to constantly prove your worth or compete to be seen, now they feel suffocating because your soul knows better. And here's the beautiful part. You don't even have to try to raise your standards, you just do. Because when you finally start choosing yourself consistently, not conditionally, the old version of you that begged, chased, and settled begins to die quietly in the background. The woman who used to overgive just to be liked, she's gone. The one who kept explaining herself to people who never respected her truth, she's not coming back. The version of you that kept shrinking to keep the peace, she's evolving, and she's not sorry about it. Now, your peace has become your filter. If it disturbs your spirit, you don't entertain it. If it doesn't align with your values, you don't excuse it. If it feels heavy in your body, you trust that without needing to intellectualize it. It's what it means to rise. Not louder, not meaner, it's clearer. And people will notice. Some will say you're acting different. Some will fall away naturally. Some will test your new standards, hoping the old version of you is still hiding somewhere underneath. But she's not. Because the moment you choose to heal, you also choose to stop settling. You're no longer available for halfway love, for convenience connections, for tolerating what breaks you just because it's familiar. Your new standards aren't about being hard to get, they're about being hard to forget. Because the woman you've become doesn't need to settle. She's not waiting to be chosen. She is the chooser now. Number 7, everything aligns without force. There is a quiet kind of power that doesn't chase, doesn't beg, and doesn't shout to be seen. It's called alignment. And when a woman steps into it, her entire life begins to shift without force. Because here's what no one tells you. You don't need to push, hustle, or prove when your internal world is in order. When your mind is clear, your heart is settled, and your spirit is at peace, your energy starts doing the work for you. You become magnetic. Not because you're trying to be, but because you're no longer trying at all. There's no more chasing after people who don't value you. No more forcing doors that don't open. No more performing in spaces where your authenticity isn't welcome. Why? Because you're no longer obsessed with external validation. You're rooted in something deeper, truth. And truth doesn't need to be loud. Truth doesn't compete. Truth simply is, and everything that's real begins to rise around it. That's the essence of peaceful power. It's not the power that seeks attention, it's the power that commands respect simply by existing. You stop needing to convince anyone of your worth because you've already convinced yourself. You stop asking life to give you what you haven't given yourself: love, respect, clarity, peace. And when your internal world finally aligns your beliefs, your boundaries, your values, something incredible happens. Your external world begins to reflect it. People respond to your energy differently. Opportunities begin to flow that once felt blocked. The things you were desperately trying to chase now come to you calmly, quietly, without struggle. It's not magic. It's alignment. Because the universe, God, your higher self, whatever language you use, it doesn't respond to desperation. It responds to integrity. to coherence. To the woman who doesn't just say she wants peace, but lives in a way that protects it. You begin to notice the more you let go of force, the more things fall into place. The more you detach from outcomes, the more blessings arrive without your grip on them. The more you release timelines and pressure, the more time bends in your favor. It's not about passivity, it's about trust. It's not about doing nothing, it's about doing things from a place of alignment instead of anxiety. So if you're in a season where things feel still, soft, or slow, don't panic. You may be walking into the most effortless alignment of your life. Because when you stop forcing and start flowing, everything that's meant for you begins to arrive without noise, without struggle, without force. When a woman chooses to focus on herself and embrace the sacred strength of silence, she stops chasing and starts attracting. She stops explaining and starts evolving. This path isn't always easy, but it is necessary. Let your healing be louder than your need to be understood. Prioritize your peace, protect your energy, and remember, not everything that demands your attention deserves your presence. Trust your intuition. Let your silence reveal truth. Let your stillness restore power. And let your standards reflect the love you've learned to give yourself. And as you walk this journey, may you be covered in divine clarity, guided by grace, and protected by a peace that surpasses all understanding. May every distraction fall away, and may every room you enter respond to the quiet confidence within you. In all things, may you be aligned, elevated, and deeply at peace. Amen.